All rise for Justice Lee Blank. Prisoners at the bar, rise for sentence.
To you, the unfortunate persons who stand at the bar, for every man who has disgraced his character as you have, must be deemed unfortunate. To you, the only kindness I can offer is in the advice to prepare you as speedily as you can for that execution of this sentence which must shortly await you, to make the best use you can of the period still allotted to you in this world, longer far than was allowed to the unfortunate person who was the object of your revenge, that you will take the opportunity of making your peace with that Almighty Being whom you have offended, that by the sincerity of your repentance, the fullness of your confession and the acknowledgement of your offences, may you endeavour to obtain the forgiveness in the world to come, which I cannot hold out to you any hopes of obtaining in this world. It remains only for me to pass upon you the sentence of the law. That sentence is, that you, the 3 prisoners at the bar, be taken from hence to the place from whence you came, and from thence on Friday next to the place of execution, that you be there severely hanged by the neck until you are dead, and your bodies afterwards delivered to the surgeons to be dissected and anatomized according to the directions of the statute. And may God have mercy upon your souls.
And so the sentence was handed down to John Miller, William Thorpe, and Thomas Smith. This was for the murder of William Horsfall, a mill owner who had spoken out against the Luddites. Numerous accounts of the executions and trials that took place at York in 1813 appeared quickly in print afterwards. So what was the feelings of the people not directly involved? Were they for or against Ludditism, and what it stood for? A Methodist minister, George Beaumont, wrote before the trials that he condemned the machine-breaking and violence, but also the harshness of the penal system, which imposed the death penalty for offences other than murder, which is why many Luddites were hanged. Other people showed how they felt about Ludditism by giving an address to John Radcliffe, the magistrate involved, expressing their thanks for his actions in suppressing Ludditism. A total of 294 people signed the petition.
The gratitude shown to John Radcliffe shows how these trials were a show-and-tell demonstration, and people were appreciative of this, even if some people on trial were acquitted due to insufficient evidence. Other involvement in the upcomings to the trials show Judge Bailey being knocked back as the judge of the York trials. This is believed to be because during the Nottinghamshire trials he didn't give the death penalty and authorities wanted a hanging judge. Evidence of this is written from John Radcliffe to Fitzwilliam, who says, "But pray exclude Judge Bailey from the commission. His decisions at the last assizes gave great encouragement to the Ludds who look on him as their friend."
In January 1813, trials were held at the York Castle for the Luddites that were captured. The end result of the trials was that 17 Luddites were executed by being hung till they were dead. There were many different offences, such as robbery, rioting, and the murder of William Horsfall. And all these offences led to the same sentence. Between the trial and execution, the prisoners refused to make any confession, suggesting that they either believed they had done nothing wrong, or that maybe they thought by not confessing they would inspire fellow Luddites to continue with their cause. This can be seen with one of the prisoners' last words, William Thorpe, saying, "I hope none of those who are now before me will ever come to this place." The judge declared that it was important to society that no mercy should be shown, and that not only those who hear me, but all without these walls, to whom the tidings of your fall may come, will be warned by your fate and avoid those fatal steps. This was all a warning and a statement to stop future Luddites taking arms, and making it clear that if they continued, they would end up at the same place, facing death.
When Luddism was recorded in newspapers, it seemed to be written with little sympathy for the Luddites. The Lancaster Gazette wrote that large crowds came to watch 7 people be hanged. This would suggest that there is much support for justice to be served to those who have caused disturbances around the Huddersfield area. Luddism seems to have been something that captured the eyes of the people around West Yorkshire, as they were wanting to know what had happened, but also what was being done. On the 28th of March 1812, there was a letter sent to the editor which discussed his concern for what was happening, and how the Luddites' actions wouldn't get them the work they wanted. In fact, I quote, "The effect of their conduct may be to place the country under military law." With all this in mind, then it is easy to come to the idea that the people of Huddersfield didn't really support the actions of Luddites, but rather they wanted justice for the damage and the murder of respected members of society.
The reporting of the Luddite trials also gives us the feel of a show-and-tell case. The newspapers depict the men on trial as remorseful individuals, and within the articles printed by the Morning Chronicle, the Morning Post, the Lancaster Gazette, and the York Herald, there are sections of speeches given by two of the men found guilty, John Walker and John Hull. Hill exclaiming, "I hope, my good Christians, you will take warning by the punishment you will see this day, inflicted upon me and my fellow companions. These reports display those who were to be executed, behaving penitently, regretting what they had done, and yet also note how they never confessed directly to the crimes." The Morning Chronicle reporting George Mellor as speaking with great apparent fervency and devotion, confessing in general but without allusion to the crimes he committed. In comparison, the reports on the attacks show a different opinion towards Luddites, taking a view that these men were dangerous, to be feared with their blackened faces, organised attacks, burglaries, and heavy firearms. This side of reporting is reflected and shown in the article of the execution of those found guilty of the murder of Mr. Horsfall, and the heavy military presence there, possibly showing a strong public distaste for those men.
So what's the opinion then? Did people approve of Ludditism or were they against it?
It seems quite a few people were against it, but maybe that's because it did get too extreme.
Do you think the trials were just for show? Do you think they wanted to find people? Nobody actually admitted to being a Luddite, so was this significant?
And apparently a lot of alibis to the defence, their evidence was dismissed, so that could show that it was a show and tell demonstration to kind of put it all to a stop, because it was getting too extreme.
The government needed somebody to take the fall for them. They needed to show that they were on top of things.
They were in control.
Yeah, by executing people, you are making sure that people are being caught and being punished for crimes that have happened.
In the newspapers that I've looked at, there's a lot of almost sorry feeling for the Luddites that are executed. There's one of them actually goes into the family that's been left behind, and it's all saying how the Luddites, when they're being put to execution, they're all really sorry for what they've done. They are
Remorseful.
Remorseful, that's the one.